This is the If More Let's Divide podcast.
Yo, Charlie guys, what's poppin'? Welcome to the If More Let's Divide podcast. And we are back again because it's another week. We thank you for rocking with us. Fred, what did happen?
Booyaka.
Fire. Gunshot in the ear.
You know?
Shouts to my homie from back in the day, Magnus Sampson. You hit me up and you sent me a photo to show Fred. Magnus, I was in the same class with him in St. Martin the Porres. I remember stealing his horseshoe magnet.
Really?
Yeah, I stole his horseshoe magnet. It was so dope.
Really?
Because I hadn't seen one before.
Oh, wow.
So I stole it and I think I was caught.
Really?
Yeah, or something funny.
Wow.
Yeah, shouts to Magnus
You know, I
Sampson.
have a funny story about Magnus as well. Do you know he used to rap?
Yeah.
Do you know his rap name?
No.
Reptile.
Rep.
And I gave that name to him. What up, G?
Charlie, what up,
Mag?
Magnus? What up, Magnus? Yeah. What up, Magnus? And apparently he's been following the podcast from NC, North Carolina.
My G. Thank you, man.
Charlie, we thank you. We thank you. Charlie, how is this week looking for you, guest-wise?
This person, I'm sure once the fans see who it is, they'll realize she needed no introduction. I think she's entrenched in the space that we operate in culturally. She's very present. She's magnified.
Yeah.
In that way. I'm not talking about Christian magnified. I beg, don't come and say blasphemy. But in terms of her presence, she's spread across the culture in a way that you can't miss her impact in the space.
Yeah. And I've seen and I've been, I've seen some of the dope things that she has been doing over the years. I've been in her space, and Charlie, I'm excited to talk to her, Charlie.
Yeah, and the way she comes up with names is also quite interesting.
Yeah, very, true. Simple, straight to the point.
There's a lesson there to be learned about branding.
And we are going to enter her and get some info. Her? No, poke holes and get some info. Maybe
ready today. That's
maybe tips,
I'm
Charlie.
all for poking
Charlie,
holes.
without further ado, Charlie, guys, help us welcome the founder of the Shop Accra, president of IDDG.
Yep.
Lorraine.
Lorraine.
Now you can go.
Hi, Lorraine.
Lorraine, what's up?
Hi, Matumbo.
Do you know one thing I like about you?
What?
I've always loved it.
What is
your
that?
smile.
Oh, thank you.
You smile and you grin and you it's so dope.
Thanks.
Have you ever heard this from anyone?
I hear it all the time.
Yeah, your smile is so radiant.
Thank you, Matumbo.
You want to write poem?
Yeah. Off the bat, right? One question that I've always wanted to ask: is it your middle name or your first name?
Which one? Lorraine?
No, Eyetsa.
Eyetsa. It's my Ghanaian name.
It's your Ghanaian name.
Yeah.
Eyetsa.
It's actually Lecha.
Lecha.
Yeah.
But I know the leches and it's a different spelling.
I know. So it's a long story. My parents had to, rewrite
History.
the the phonetics of the name or the pronunciations of the name just so they can make it easier for us to, exist in this world. Yeah.
So it's Lecha.
Yes.
E-Y-E.
I'm a twin.
You're a twin?
Yeah, I have a twin
What?
sister. Yes.
Wait. Do I know her?
I don't think so. I don't know if
Is she based
No,
here?
she's based in Germany.
Wow, I never knew this.
Yes, I have a twin sister. She's called Ei, and I'm Lecha. So Eli Plecha.
Wow.
There's Achu and Eche.
Yeah.
Right.
What
So
language
that's
are we talking
normally Ewe.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's normally for the male twins, Achu and Eche. And the women twins or the female twins are Ei Plecha.
Wow. I
It
never thought you were a twin.
It
Never
seems
knew.
like they always have more male twins than females. So there's very unlikely you meet an AE or a Icha. But yeah, and in order to spell my name, you have to use a epsilon that looks like a Y that looks very interesting,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it didn't exist, so my parents just had to improvise.
Wow. So, do you guys look alike? You and your twin, is it like identical?
We're not identical, but we look very much alike. We're twins.
I never knew this.
Yeah, it's just that she's vegan mostly, and I'm not. So that tells you there's a
Yeah. Oh, wow.
difference in structure. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fred, do you have twins in your family?
I hear we do. But this is very interesting about
Yeah.
I like that. I hear you do. Actually,
I come from a large family, so
okay.
yeah.
All right.
So I know a few Aquili and Quokos and things running around in my family, but I know there's more than one.
I like that you said Aquila and Akoko. I'm Akoko actually, because we have so many twins in the family. That Penny and Kaka and Eyetsa, like all of that was like taken. And at some point, I had a nickname because my auntie had twins. My dad brothers were twins.
Wow.
My other auntie had triplet.
Wow.
So at some point, they just had to go, in the Ga language to get. So the
Names.
local names that I had at home, in order to differentiate the twins, we had 3 sets of twins. Was Aquile and Akoko.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know the guys and always have a very serious link.
Do they?
Yeah. Seriously. We're linked.
How so?
Genetics.
Genetics.
I
I
do.
thought the Gans and the Nigerians.
No,
More.
Yeah. According to history, they came from somewhere in Nigeria, from
So you
Israel
know the name
to Nigeria.
Aigbe.
Aigbe.
No.
Yeah,
Manchai.
Manchai.
Ended up
Aigbe.
with the Ewes.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
Okay.
There are lots of historical links between us. We've married amongst ourselves.
Oh,
shared
okay.
a
I
lot
now
of-
understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, some Gans went to Eweland, settled there. They identify as Ewe now, but their roots are in Ga. And yeah, my dad was with an Ewe woman.
Okay.
I'm looking for one.
That's dope. This is crazy. I never thought
Well,
that
that
you
she
were
was a twin. That's
Never
crazy,
ever.
actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if you see the two of us together, some people normally get like a terrified shock, but yeah, it is what it is.
Wow.
It's
How long have you
they say
lived
good
apart?
things come in two, right?
Yeah.
How long have you lived apart?
I would say for the past 14, I would say 15 years. So
Wow.
yeah,
Was that
because
difficult?
I came to Ghana 14 years ago, and she decided to stay in Europe, like mainly in the UK and then also Germany. Yeah.
Is it because of the veganism? I'm just kidding.
No, I mean she comes to Ghana, and visit and stuff. There are two different perspectives here. I don't think she, really likes the lifestyle here. She prefers the organized and order and of Germany than the chaotic and improvisation and creativity of Ghana. So yeah, yes.
So that means you guys are different.
Yes, we're different, but we're pretty much the same.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's different and the same at the same time. Yeah.
That's dope.
Sometimes we have like very weird stuff where, she, like, I'll tell you one example. It was when we were in uni, she was in a different uni. She went to St. Martin's in the University of London. And I was in SOAS, School of Oriental and African Studies. And she got herself a piercing here. I didn't know about it, but it's so weird. I was drinking tea that day. I like drinking tea. And I spilled the tea, and the tea was not even like warm. I spilled the tea, and the next day I woke up with some form of like infection, like wound popping up on my face, and I was like, what is this? So I went to the doctors, and the doctor asked me, did you try getting a piercing or what? Like, because this looks like a an infection from a PSA. I was like, what? I had to call my sister and double check. It's like, what did you do?
What?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of twins have these stories. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I was, wow. Are you serious?
Yeah.
I was watching this doc on Netflix about twins who were separated at birth, and they were like even they didn't know that they were twins, and they came back together, and apparently they were doing the same things. They behaved the same, voice the same. They like it's crazy.
Nature versus nurture.
Charlie, it be serious, oh.
Charlie, but that's crazy. I'm stunned. Like, so has it been figured out what links you guys genetically in a way that something happens to one, the other experiences it in a physical manifestation?
I think the concept of twins are still being studied in terms of there's like something very magical about it. Especially the fact that you would have, an egg that is fertilized either by two sperms or or separated by one, like one sperm actually separates into two. So it's something that is very, very unique. I can't tell what it is, but I know that sometimes I have this inclination to call her just to make sure she's okay, or I would decide, at a point in time that I'm watching something and she's watching the same thing, especially if you have like Netflix.
Crazy.
Although now she stopped watching TV and everything altogether, but yeah.
Okay, Lauren. Wow, thank you for this info. Never ever knew. Another thing about you that really stuns me is your hair.
My hair.
Like
I've heard that
it's so even. It's so well kept. And anytime I see you, it's on point. How many years have you had this?
So at the moment, this one is 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fred, Charlie, see the same length and size. Oh.
So you've cut it before, it sounds
Oh
like.
yeah, absolutely. It was like way beyond, and I had to I normally have to trim it on a monthly basis, just to make sure that it's not too heavy, and I'm balancing the weight as well. So yeah.
Do you feel the weight?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Our hair, they're crowns. They're heavy.
Yeah.
They're heavy.
So
But the hair is neat, I agree.
very neat, very
Thank
neat.
you.
So earlier on, when you were talking about your twin sister, you said she is based in Europe.
She has the same hair as well.
Oh,
As a matter of
wow.
fact, her hair is longer than mine.
Oh wow! Did you guys decide? Let's get dreads. Like,
I mean, she did dreads I think 5 years prior.
Oh,
So she
okay.
started quite early, and subsequently she came to Ghana, and then we decided, let's do it together.
Okay, let's do it.
And
Oh,
then so
dope,
we
dope.
started it together.
Dope.
Yeah.
So did you grow up in Germany, or you grew up here?
So I was born in Ghana, Kumasi specifically.
Wow, more
Okay.
facts.
Yeah, Kumasi
Oh,
girl.
wow.
And went to Germany at the age of 9, 10. And yeah, grew up there. Yeah.
Why? Like, was it your father or your mother?
Yeah, so
They
my
had
dad,
jobs there?
my dad had a job there. Was in the engineering field. And yeah, my dad worked there, so my mom obviously was like, it's better if we are all there. So yeah, so they came for us.
How,
But I
how
grew up
many-
with my grandmother.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so you know something, Fred? Have you noticed most of the people who come here grew up with their grandparents?
Yeah.
I think most of Ghanaians,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
most of Ghanaians. I think if
Why though?
there's an identity of a Ghanaian of being able to, have brought up by your grandmother, some grandparent.
Yeah.
What's
I
up?
mean, same. You two same.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But things have changed, haven't it?
Yeah.
It's not as prevalent anymore.
But I think when we get there, our kids will bring their kids to us to take care of them.
But I mean, the current generation. they're
Okay,
not-
yeah,
they
yeah,
take
true,
care of it.
true.
But it's a very common thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Things have changed, though.
Hi, Lorraine.
Hi.
I've been all over the place, but I had some weird questions for you.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you like to be taken seriously?
That's
She
the
comes
question.
across as
That's a question.
Yeah, that's the question. Do you like to be taken seriously, or do you feel like sometimes people take you too seriously? Do you think there's a side to you that people don't even ever try to tap into because you come off as a serious person?
Yeah, I think Lorraine comes off as a serious person.
I think it's important to be taken seriously, especially in this context.
Which context is that?
Ghana.
Oh, right.
But in general, I think it depends on what you do, actually. You know, I think for me, I do come across as very serious because I have this thing where most of the time I merge how I work, like, or what I'm doing for work with, you know, also how I live as well. So it's like there's like I'm not the person that separates work from
life.
My work, like everything
life.
I do, whether it's projects or whatever, it's all part of it. So I do it with a passion. So I want to be taken seriously in that sense.
So I guess part of the reason why I'm asking is tongue in cheek, but also because you come off as a serious person. How does that affect your, like, I know you say you don't separate the two, but how does it affect your personal life? How do guys approach you? Do they come and say, yeah, I was thinking about a project and I wanted to discuss? Or do they just want to take you out for a drink? Like, how do people, feel your vibe? Like, what do you think you give off to people and how do they approach you? Or how have you felt they approaching you? Would you like to change anything about it?
So I think like confident people know how to approach me. Like they would like walk up and say, hey, I like this project or whatever. So it has to be. It's actually most of the people I've met is in work context. Like it's work related. It's either a project in interior design, the context of the shop, consultation like that I'm doing.
Your whole life?
Yeah, most of the time.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, the only time that I can think of that wasn't in a work of, in a space of context was the fact that I travel outside and then I met somebody, but it was still like in a context of art because, like, for example, I visited my friend in LA.
Yeah.
And she had just had a baby and she was, she hadn't been out in a long time. And I was like, hey, there's an exhibition happening. How can you be in LA and not go out? That kind of thing. And I took her along to that exhibition and there I met somebody. So it's interlinked.
Yeah, still work.
Okay.
Quote unquote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so wait. What do you do for fun?
I travel a lot for fun. I do like random travel, so I can do backpacking for, like, I would just wake up and then go to, like, I don't know, Burkina, just to see how the context of, like, the cool, like, how people are behaving, just to, nosy around. I can take a trip to Togo, just to kind of like, or I can check who is in Togo at the moment, like any of my friends, and say, hey, I'm coming to Togo, or I can go to Abidjan. But when I do go there,
It's still work. It's still work.
Yeah.
The idea is to be able to also connect with other people there. So, like, even if I go to Rwanda, like, it would be connecting with people, and then subsequently you'll end up, connecting.
Yeah.
And then something always comes out of it.
Fred, have you ever been to any West African country?
Nigeria. I've been to Senegal and Ghana in West Africa. Yeah. Senegal. And then I think I went through, I don't want to lie, I think I went through Burkina Faso before or something. Yeah, but yeah, for sure Senegal and Nigeria.
I'm trying to go to this voodoo festival thing next year. Yeah, Benin.
Yeah, I was supposed to go this year, but too much happening.
I'm pretty that's where my people are from too, so I need to.
Yeah, we forgo.
You do?
You have to go. Yeah. So back to so Lorraine, you grew up here and you moved to Germany when you were 9, 10.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you were going?
Yeah. Yeah.
How was it? Was it like when you were packing up to the airport and leaving for Germany? Like,
So we were really excited because like we just wanted to, be under the same roof with our parents. Like I think that was one of the main things because at school you would have people that had their parents and pick them up and stuff, and you'd be like, what's happening here? So we had to obviously move to Accra. Interesting enough, we started having German lessons a year before in Kumasi. And you can imagine my grandmother's house had all the other aunties and the cousins also there. And we would be segregated out, once like we come from school to take German lessons. So that was basically that. So we were prepared in that sense. And then we came to Accra. That was my first time in Accra. But it was straight to the embassy, and then the next thing we know, we were
on a plane
out. Yeah.
And do you remember like your first month, your first week?
I remember when we landed. That was I could never forget this because we landed in January and it's very cold. Yeah. It's like winter. Landed in Düsseldorf, and it was like, what is this? So I think my sister and I, we did a little, we have to talk motion for my parents. We're like, okay, are we being punished because how long are we staying here for? And they were like, no, that's not what this is about. This is about better opportunity, access to, education. So it's up to you. This is an opportunity for you to do what you can do with it. And it was very interesting because we had that talk that early. I think when we were around, I think it was a couple of months after we landed, we were like, okay, you go to school and it's like, people are looking at you strange. Like, this is a very odd place.
Do you have short hair?
So, we in Ghana, for the school that I went to Cambridge International in Kumasi. So we all had like short hair. But just gradually before we left, we started, growing the hair.
Yeah, then you're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when we went to Germany, we had short hair.
Oh, okay. And were you stirred in strange ways?
The interesting thing, my parents we ended up owning the shop. Like, you see the way I have the Shop Accra here. Yeah. We had a shop in Essen, which was like a hub where a lot of Afro-Germans and Ghanaians all meet. And we had a hairdresser there. And my sister and I actually used to work there during the weekends. So we used to change our hair all the time.
Oh, okay.
So it was the most confusing thing because school, people couldn't keep up.
Wow.
The kids were like, what's happening? And
you were swagging on them.
The interesting thing is that we could literally be any personality we wanted. Kelly's, Beyonce, anybody. You just like overnight put on the braids and whatever. Yeah.
Dope.
So I'm taking you back a little bit.
Let's go back.
Kumasi.
Yes.
You said Eweland.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the connection?
Yeah.
Okay, so my great grandmother migrated from Keta to Kumasi. She was actually a market lady. She mobilized women to dry fish, specifically Kobe and Amane and all of that.
My favorite.
Yeah, so there was a whole production going on in Keta no longer where she would be the one who actually brings them for trade in Kumasi. And she was one of the first women who actually started that. And And subsequently, she ended up bringing a whole bunch of Ewe ladies to Kumasi. And they were all traders, including my grandmother from my father's side as well. Was actually, I guess, I would say the word is mentored into the trade by my great grandmother.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she ended up becoming a market queen. So, and she had a lot of stores, and there's still a lot of stores in Kumasi Market. She was in charge of in Kumasi Market, there are different segments in terms of tribal. So you have the Ewe people on one side, you have the Kumasi, the Ashantis themselves, and then and everybody sells different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was like the main person who established that market.
And I can bet you this, right? The fish that she was taking from the Volta region to the Ashanti region would sell for cheap in the Ashanti region for some strange reason. Fish is way cheaper there than here in Accra.
But
Really?
I guess.
No, ask.
Well, I guess Accra is a whole different conversation. I think Accra has its problems when it comes to trade and stuff, and also the measure of like what to do with commodities like fish, and also the mentality behind it as well. Like in the Volta region, I think fishing it's religiously like activated. Like all the people in the village actually, are part of it. So the men will go out to sea, the women would be smoking them. There was a systematic approach to it, and everybody knew that they had to contribute to it. So it wasn't today I'm feeling, I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And also it wasn't necessarily regulated by people that live on the coast. And I think that's what the issue probably here is. In Accra, you have certain houses that, like guide these fishing, and there are certain times, and there's also a lot of rules govern the fishing. Like there are certain times you can't go, and I think that also has gradually been adapted by the government, where at some point they'll tell you not to go and see, and it
for
happens
like a week, for like a
yeah,
month.
yeah. And it happened mostly in the greater Accra area, but the others, they are pretty much.
Dope. So so your mom and your dad, like, are they all from the Volta region?
So yes, my mom is half Ashanti, half Ewe, because my mom's dad was from Apijafim. So interestingly, when my grandmother ended up marrying into the Ashanti royals, and then my dad is pure Ewe, and as I said, he came along because my grandmother from his side was like literally taken on by my late great grandmother to take care of, and then
Dope.
So my mom and dad knew each other. They grew up together, they knew each other. So my dad was friends of her brothers, and so like them getting together was like was meant to be.
Those things is the best,
Yeah.
and also the best, because you can't do anything to the woman. The woman can't do anything to you.
Everybody hold them
It's
accountable.
safe.
Yeah, very, very
It's
safe.
so safe.
Very safe.
RPG film.
Yeah.
This is the first time I'm hearing it, but it sounds heavy. And your great grandma, one of the first traders to, you could say, take a voyage into Kumasi to establish business and really thrive.
Yeah.
Took a bunch of women along with her. I don't know if you've heard this before. It feels as though you come with the presence. It feels as if you're dragging a lot of things behind you, people with you.
Yeah.
First, have you heard that before? But how much of the weight of your lineage dictates how you move? Because I think there's an element of yes, I say you have a serious demeanor, and you demand that kind of, you know, thing. But how much of that basically is being carried along with you?
Well, I think it's a lot because like I've heard that before, and in my family settings, we've always been about people. Like it's always a matter of it's really interesting. You know, now that a lot of people are actually going towards nuclear families, my family is one of those people that, you know, would have a WhatsApp group and have all the cousins, everybody from left, right, center, like literally. And every day they are introducing another cousin that you should know of, that maybe you might not know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that has always been people, we've been always, and this happens mainly with the women in the family. They have this obligation, and I think it's something that is not even said, but there's an obligation to keep the family together and keep people together and gather and create communities, and make sure that everybody's doing well, and make sure that everybody has some form of work to do, a roof over their head. And that's basically something that has been persistent throughout generations. I would say 3 generations now that I know of. So yeah, it's a heavy responsibility because obviously sometimes you just want to, you know,
Exist.
you just want to be.
Yeah.
But then, you know, it comes with that. And it's interesting sometimes when you're not doing it directly for your family, you're doing it for outsiders. And you have no, like, it's not even a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So still on quote unquote the way you are, like we've been talking about. Do you think Germany played a role in how you are now?
Yes. Yes.
How did it play a role?
I think, obviously, when we were 9 and we had to prepare for Germany, it was a very interesting thing. It's almost like, you know, when a child has to prepare for exams or has to prepare for school, this was different. This was like you're preparing to speak a different language. You're preparing to be completely, you know, different in one way. So it was very intriguing. And then when we got there, we realized that, okay, there's something not so, something on foul play here because there are people that genuinely don't know you from anywhere but dislikes you or hates you for no reason. And so the sentiment always had been, you know, to make sure that that hate doesn't, you know, impact you. And this was a very young age where you had to literally form some form of skin layers that would determine that you don't let anything go underneath your skin.
Yeah.
So you had to be serious, you know, when somebody is like there on the train insulting you and you're looking at them like, really? You know, so you had to have tough conversations.
Yeah.
Even with your classmates and schoolmates. And funny enough, that makes sure that, you know, the teachers are taking you serious. I remember one class particularly, geography. One of the teachers came in, and funny enough, when we got to Germany, we were put into a German class right away. Literally, we were not speaking. I mean, we've learned some German, but we're not fluent or anything. And so we'll be in the class, and they would have, you know, the lessons in Germany, and you go to the next class. Did it for 6 months, and we were fluent afterwards.
Wow,
Yeah, so
that
that was the trick. Yeah. But I remember one class, particularly geography, the lady, the teacher came in and said something like, oh, today we're going to learn about Africa. That's where the niggers are. And I had to excuse myself. And I said, first of all, I don't sit in the class like this. You have to correct yourself. And I was very young. And so I ended up in the
How old?
I think 11.
Wow.
And I ended up in the headmaster's office. And I had to have a serious conversation with the headmaster and saying that you had to let that teacher go. And he was like,
Wow.
how can we trade? And I said, well, this is how we'll do it. If I hear any teacher use the N word, I'm going to protest. I'm going to make sure the class will not go on. So if you want to, we have to come to a balance here so he literally did a memo to all the teachers to not use the N word. I was lucky. We were lucky. My sister and I were lucky because we ended up in a school that was very interesting. This was the first time that this was being done. UNESCO, which is at that time, came up with a proposal because Germany was experiencing a lot of influx of foreigners. So UNESCO came up with a proposal to set up a grammar school, that is dedicated to picking the brightest students, that came in as foreign children. And they had just started that year when we got in. And so we were selected to be part. And so the experiment of seeing whether if you put a child in a class for 6 months without them knowing the language, what's going to happen is basically they speak fluent. So we were literally in the space where they were willing to listen, And so we used that to our advantage. I particularly, in terms of like having conversations, and some teachers, would have to be swapped to a different school. It was great. So I had classmates that were from, interesting that school, there was not a single German. You had classmates from Iraq, Afghanistan, around the world, Poland, Russia, China, yeah.
Dope. I'm trying to remember the year that we met, that I came across you.
Okay.
I don't know whether you were in the UK. I'm trying to remember how we
met.
Yeah.
Possibly
I
at
think
Nubuke.
you had moved here.
Yes, 2010.
2010.
Yeah, 2010 I moved. I initially came to Ghana 2008 just to have a look. And actually my grandmother then passed, so I came for a funeral. And then stayed a bit, and I was like, Ghana is not bad. But at that time, I just got into school. I was in university in London. So I was like, okay, had to finish it before coming. And so 2010, I decided that I wanted to do a gap year or take an extended outside campus studies. And I decided to come to Ghana. It was actually based on the fact that I had met somebody from the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Center because I was working in a political party in the UK, House of Lords. So there's a political party in the Houses of Lords in the UK. And basically what they do is that they represent the voice of Africa. And every year they have like different students that come from different backgrounds come in representing their country. So I was representing Ghana. And back in 2007, there was a lot of narcotics issues coming from Ghana. There was a lot of smuggling of drugs from Ghana to the UK. So the UK wanted to actually put a travel restriction or ban on how many Ghanaians traveling into UK. And it was like, that's not possible. We're Commonwealth. So a debate had to be had. And so a lot of research went in, and I was actually put on that project. And so we ended up inviting the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Center head to come in. And it was great because they were able to actually make some pointers, which was really important. And so that, it's basically, imagine having a room full of MPs in the UK, and then speaking to them in a way where they reason with you, and that they don't take, their harsher decisions, which would have been crazy because, if you think about it, if there's travel restriction from here to Ghana to the UK, I don't know how Ghanaians will do.
That's what I've been crazy.
Yeah.
Very.
Why? Just because of drugs? Like,
It's
like-
not just because of drugs.
yeah,
It's a big issue. Drugs are
yeah,
a big
but
issue.
someone is doing their drugs. I'm not doing drugs. Like, allow me
You see,
to be to go.
the problem was
Like-
that Ghana had become a center where even if it wasn't Ghanaians that were doing it, it was coming through Ghana. So they needed to have politically,
It's about our system.
yeah.
Yeah, but cap. I don't think you should put a cap on the number of people who can move from.
wasn't so mu- I don't think so much
especially
about
when
the people-
Ghana is part of the Commonwealth. When Ghana has strong, quote unquote, ties with
Yeah, I think the consideration was more about the system than it was about the people.
Yeah,
Right.
but eventually
It will
was the
prohibit
who-
people
Yeah.
from
it was
going.
the people who
But
were
it's the
gonna suffer.
people who were smuggling as well, so it's important. But the issue was that it had become a gateway, So
Yeah.
So it's almost like the boundaries were loosened. There, people from other African countries will come through Ghana because it was British Airways, straight flights to.
Straight.
At that time also Ghana Airways was working. I
Yeah.
think, and so that was like.
We had allowed our system to become a vehicle that was tormenting their lives.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to shoot at the target, some of the policies, and I'm not a company man or a government guy, so I'm just trying to explain. Sometimes some of these measures would affect civilians in ways that is not fair, but
Yeah.
is our corrupt system that had allowed, because we were aware of it and we were like basically turning a blind eye, and then like fuck, all this shit is coming to our country. Anyway, I'm going back to things. I just like to pay attention. Back to your great grandma again. Well, the family that she comes from, are you guys like, in different jurisdictions in this country, you would have, like you said, a PJFA. What sort of system did your great grandmother come from?
We are matrilineal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was it like, some family, like my family, for instance, in La, we have the Wulomos come through us. So
Okay.
it's rotational.
Okay.
Do you come from such a...
Yes, I mean we're Oklus.
Okay.
So from the Ewa side, I think if you know Kita and Amloga, there are different sets of Oklus. It's interesting because my father's mother is also Oklu.
Okay.
And it's not the same Oklu, but it's like a distance, very distant cousin sort
Do you
of.
guys have like assigned roles? I guess that's what I'm trying to...
Assign roles. I don't think it's
Like this family is a fishing family, or this family is they're the ones that do the herbs or the...
Yeah.
beads
So
or-
we're the fish family.
Okay.
Like so my mom's side, especially because of what my great grandmother was able to establish, we were crowned. I mean, we're part of the like Apijafim in a sense,
Okay.
right? So for example, every year there's a festival where they would take a bunch of, fish from Volta and literally bring it to
Okay. But if you go back to the
Otumfo.
Volta region, you guys were the fishing family. That was it like
We were the trading. We were
a
the
trading family?
Yeah, the trading family. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm trying to understand if that was something that was demanded or expected of you. Like,
No,
okay, all right, cool.
no. So
It was
wasn't
still,
demanded.
because I have a question. The reason why I was asking is because there is an audacity. I can't find a better word to use it, so I'm going to stick to that. There's an audacity about you that I'm almost certain that you're aware of, but in context for a listening, like younger person or whoever is listening to us, to understand where the audacity comes from, to move into a society where you are looked at as other, not they even in their minds may think you're subhuman.
Yeah,
At 11 years old,
yeah.
You spoke.
pointing fingers at the teacher to fuck off because what they were saying was ignorant. Excuse my French.
Well, I
And
didn't say
then-
fuck off.
Yeah. Well, you didn't, but you know what I mean. Like to go to the headmaster's place and make a case, to make that argument, it requires a certain spine, a certain audacity to
Yep.
say, I am free to speak my mind no matter where I find myself. Then your life takes you to a place where you're again finding yourself having to represent advocacy for Ghana. I don't think those things come just as easily. For those of you who walk in that skin, it may feel like a default setting. But for most people, that becomes,
Yeah.
wow, like, what were you thinking? And I'm trying to understand, first of all, your awareness of that audacity and how you've carried it, what you think about it, and maybe how it makes you present in the world as you exist in it.
Wow. So I've never heard that. I guess you would say audacity. Some people might say different words for it. But yes, that's something that was I was very much aware of very young, especially because for the past couple of years of my life, I had, especially with moving from even Ghana to Germany, there was that space where you had to say, okay, this is not how we're doing it. We're doing it this way, you know. And then I guess you can definitely use the word audacity for it. It's something that is obviously inherently, I think, generational. My great grandmother did it. We are able to move into spaces and be able to establish like ground rules and set up that we know that will help, you know, everybody involved. That's why I was like, the school was very interesting because it had a whole bunch of foreigners and kids in there, and they had never seen anybody speak out, right? So for them, they were like, oh wow. um so in even my uni, I ended up becoming like, you know, student president for like the entire time I was in uni, because I was able to advocate in spaces where people maybe felt shy and or didn't feel like they belong in any way. I don't think that is something that I ever feel. It's always like, okay, what context are we looking at? What can we do here, and what setup can be put in place to make sure that everybody is able to benefit? Yeah.
Okay.
So that is an audacity, because normally people like to prey on other people's, I guess, weaknesses. And we're from my family, we're mostly from a family setting where it's like you don't prey on other people's weaknesses. You actually bring people together, and then you're stronger in that.
Try to empower. Did you meet your great grandmother?
No, I didn't. I met my grandmother.
Okay.
My grandmother. Yeah.
Dope. Charlie, enough of family. Let's move. So, I realized all of a sudden
Yeah.
that you had set up the Shop Accra.
Right. All of a sudden.
Yeah. Because I didn't see you go like build it. Like I just heard the Shop Accra and it was, yours. Was it a plan that you had in you way before you moved here, or you got here and realized that, there's a space that I have to fill?
So, again, every time I move into spaces, I always ask, okay, which community or which group of people are in need of some form of togetherness, right? Or just what can you create that will enable people to actually not be burdened by, having to be taken advantage of in any way, or make it easier for them to be able to be themselves without having to have, difficulties. And I think for me, when I came to Ghana in 2010, it was 4 years later that I decided that, it was important for me to actually set up a space like the Shop Accra. So it was 4 years later, but it was very interesting. Before I set up the Shop Accra, I actually traveled the entire country. Went to every single region.
Why?
Because it had to make sense. Why am I setting the place? You know, it's not like you just woke up and set up the shop. That's not how it happened. So I actually had to go around the entire 10 regions and realize that, you know, people were making amazing things, but there wasn't any space in Accra. Just like my great-grandmother probably thought, this is amazing fish.
Yeah.
How can we,
Yeah.
you know?
Spread it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it was also like, how are we able to connect all these people, you know, together in one space? So after traveling and collecting a lot of stuff, I was like, okay, I can't collect all these things for myself. You know, it has to be other people actually knowing that these things exist. And so the initial start was for me to actually display what I've found around the country. And then, you know, there was a lot of interest in that. You know, people were curious about it. Some people would come to my house and find very weird stuff like wooden carvings. It's things that you not normally go out to find. And I'll say, oh, this is from, you know, the north, this is from there, and this from there. And subsequently, the idea was to create a space where people were able to actually just walk in and know that they will be able to actually find home there. Yeah.
So wait, were you collecting things for yourself first?
Initially.
Initially,
So
before you realized that I can actually put this in a
yeah,
space.
because I did art history, and I was very, very like intrigued about mask and carvings and because I'd taken so much time to learn about it in the context of the museums in Britain and so on and so forth. Because like next to my school was British Museum, and so every single day, like I was literally like there. And when you see all the things that they've been able to accumulate and collect, and you come here and you realize that this whole thing, like I can actually, you know, I go to places and identify different masks, and I was like, I saw this there, and so gradually you are in a space where you're collecting.
Yeah.
There are things that you haven't seen there. You know that okay, this will be important. And the thing is that a lot of people were also disguising them, like they were throwing them out, in a sense. I remember I went to one village and they had really amazing wooden chairs that was like, I think a family member had died, and they had taken the chairs and put them outside of their house, you know, and they were willing to get rid of it, and they would even exchange it for plastic chairs.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So all you had to do was just get them some
small coins.
plastic chairs with
Small coins.
with a round table where they can sit and drink their beer. And you can have that wooden chair that was like commissioned by their great grandmother probably.
Yeah.
Wow.
It must have cost a fortune. So you take that and then you upholstery that, and then you have voila a new
Peace.
yeah.
One thing, or do you want to
No,
go?
go.
One thing that I threw away from my grandmother's room is her chest of drawers. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yo,
Painful.
the handle was made of, I think, the marble.
Wow. And you threw it away.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Like I didn't
It's
have
okay.
any use for it.
A lot of
Then
people don't know.
It
It's okay.
looked so old, but now, from what I know now, I look back and I go like,
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah.
My grandmom used to boast about it, like
Yeah.
you know, and Charlie, it's
The craftsmanship was different then too. It's not
Yeah.
like your cookie cutter stuff that is all mass produced now.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
some meaning,
yeah.
sentiment.
So I mean, there's a very very basic question before we go on. What is a Shop Accra?
Okay, so the Shop Accra is a physical platform that allows the opportunity for incubation to happen, in the sense of this is a very modern way of describing it. But what it does is it allows trade to take place, right? So if you make something, if you create something, normally the point of call is always, how do I sell this, right? And just before, I guess, the internet was, a thing where you can actually put everything on online, you could literally go to the market and then ask somebody, oh, can I Joss here? Can I stay with you in your apata and and sell my thing, right? Or can I stay in front of your apata and sell my thing? And this is almost like literally a modern interpretation, or my interpretation of that, which is basically be able to have an apata big enough or to be able to actually welcome other people.
Welcome other dope. And also, I've actually organized a show there before for an artist that I was working with, and I've been
a talk.
Yeah.
Amare.
Yeah.
The first show.
Yeah.
The first
Really?
show we had at the shop was Amare.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful show.
Was it your first?
It wasn't like the first music show. We've had it several events.
Yeah, because I was coming there for events.
I think Amare's first show in Ghana.
Yes,
was at the shop.
Yes, true.
Oh, you went there before Cafe Kwe?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
We're 80 years old.
Wow.
No, I mean, did Amare perform at yours before Cafe Kwe?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That was Amare's ever first show in Accra.
Yeah.
Dope. The shop.
Yeah.
We want to talk about work. We almost switched gears. When I first went to your space, I found interesting literature. Books that are not very
Popular.
It's almost like those books that become assigned to Afrocentrism, if you want to call it a thing, that's even a word I can use. But you get from what I'm saying, what I'm trying to express. There's certain books that you look at and you're like, okay, first of all, why don't we have more of this? And then second of all, why is it being obscured? Why is it being kept in the shadows? Why is it not mainstream for us to study, to understand? And amongst a myriad of things, I'm looking at you now. The word that was playing in my head when I first walked in, I said, I'm going to ask you a question about the ethnic looking or the ethnic nature of the things that you're wearing. I think they're beautiful.
Right.
When I came to the space, the things that I saw being sold, there's an element of it that feels local, Ghanaian. People from here made this. And obviously, you've given me the background of why you started. What I want to know about that is, how do you straddle this community building thing that's inside of you,
Right.
with the real demand of capitalism? What capitalism does, if you reduce it to its basic, is supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
There are things that people want,
Yeah.
and there's a place that has to be sold and it has to be quantified at a particular value. But you're also trying to make sure you're being fair to people. What dictates that for you? Fairness is, for me, fairness feels arbitrary. If you really want to be academic about it, in my mind, or if I want to intellectualize it, it's arbitrary. You say it's fair. I don't think it's fair. But what is really fair?
It's relative, yeah.
So how do you put that in your space, the shop? I'm trying to build community. I'm trying to do this, but people got to make money. I got to make money. This has to be sustainable. How do you make it work?
That's a good question. How do you make it work? You just be as persistent as possible to make sure that when you have a vision, like something like building a community, it's not overnight thing. I think capitalism has this notion that, you can become rich overnight. It's something that you can just do. You just change gears and that's it. I think sustainability has been the core of fairness. Like, it's like, how is this sustainable? Like, are we able to exist this long if it's not fair, right? And I think when you're dealing in space where there's a lot of playing factors, human beings, the economy itself, policies, and so on and so forth, you always have to, be kind of like thinking ahead in terms of planning, and also thinking that having the people at hand is very important. So what can you do that will make sure that, 10 years from now, there is still a space for an unborn or an unidentified artist, or somebody who wants to actually venture into the capitalism space, is able to actually find a space where they're not chewed up, by, like, gradually, but they're able to build themselves gradually. It's funny because, like, I see brands nowadays, and I'm so proud because, like, I remember when they brought in their first T-shirt, for example. They had just printed 5 of them, and it's like, oh, this is what I do. Or brands who just do maybe cosmetics and just did 10 bottles and said, oh, we want to try it out. And now they have their own brands and they have their own shops and they're supplying, mass all over the world. It's really refreshing to see that, like, you're able to help people sustain their paths. Obviously, COVID was a big hit because COVID disrupted a lot of things in terms of making sure that people had to reinvent themselves. And unfortunately, there's a lot of brands who were left behind, couldn't progress from that. Yeah.
So what would you tell someone who goes to a place like the arts is a center, right, to buy their stuff? Like, what reason are you giving them to rather come to your shop than to go to a place like the arts center?
Yeah, well, I think there's quite a bit of a difference between that, the arts center. I personally am a big fan of the arts center. I go there all the time, as a matter of fact.
Shout out to Adamu.
Shout out to Adamu for sure, and his uncle.
Yeah, hard guys.
But yeah, it's a great space to go to the art center. But I think what happens is that you end up getting just the commercialized stuff, like the fabrics, the cheap fabrics, and then the China fabrics, and the stuff that are not necessarily historically or culturally really relevant. So tourist stuff, basically. But if you want, like, very, very in-depth, you have to go deep into the art center in order to get it. Yeah. And sometimes if you don't speak the language, if you don't know what you're looking for, it becomes difficult. And the experience of actually going through the art center it's not pleasant because you have everybody talking at you. Yeah. At the shop, the difference is that you can come sit, and as he said, there are books there that you would not even anticipate that they're there. So you can come sit and take a book and read. I remember one particular scenario, and I think this is not something that you can do at the art center. There was a writer who actually came to sit at the shop and wrote her entire book by just sitting at the shop and watching people come in, enjoy the space, and so on. And then later came back and actually launched the book there as well.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. So it's really exciting to know that, it's a space that doesn't necessarily allow you to just others to trade. There's a lot of different commerce happening. There's a lot of different activities happening. People come in, they sing. People come in, they do spoken word. People come in, they have a debate. I think we even had a talk about the Wakanda. It just
Drop.
the first Wakanda movie. And we had a whole bunch of African American and also Ghanaians actually all meet and really talk about the importance of the movie. So many events that have happened in the place, including even Papi Kojo even doing a show there and all of that. So I think there are different. The shop is not just the shop. It's not like other people see it. It's not. Yes, we trade, but we also trade in different. We exchange in different non-tangible elements. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is an obvious question. You supplanted yourself
Supplanted.
to come to Ghana and be brave and bold and do something.
Okay.
Is that how you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's another way to see it. Yeah.
But you've been here 10 years plus.
14. Yeah.
You've built things from businesses that are scaled to communities that support upcoming startups, mid-level, and I think along the chain at every point in time for the work that you've put in, you're connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you understand, like anybody else, the skeleton of the thing that we're discussing.
Right.
How do you diagnose it? What is your diagnosis of the skeleton? If you were to do an autopsy on it, it's not dead, but let's say you were doing an autopsy and you had to go in and give your unique perspective.
Of my experience in Ghana so far.
Yeah, of what you think of the industry that you're a part of.
Okay.
The experience that you've had, moving back here, the ambition, the dream, accomplishing it, sitting at the top of the mountain, looking around, scouting it and saying, what is this?
Yeah. Well, I would say we are a beautiful country. We have the most. I think I've traveled across the continent. I think I've done about 17 countries or so.
Wow. That's a whole lot. 17.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Majority of them by road because I love.
Wow.
You actually get to see,
Yeah.
and interact with the people. And I must say that Ghana is really one of the truly most beautiful country of all of them.
Are you sure though? Now?
No, the country.
Okay.
You
Okay,
see,
fair.
there's a difference between land and people,
Okay, cool.
right?
Yeah.
I said the country is one of the most beautiful and if not the most resource country in on the continent. But then we have a deficit in terms of our history, right? So the challenge really is the fact that, this beautiful country is not able to actually reach its highest potential because we have people who are living in trauma, right? There's so many lapses that continues to, happen over and over and over again, and nobody seems to really, point to it and say, "Hey, this needs to be figured out." If you go to any country and it's difficult for you to build this community, there's a clear sign that there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And I think I have seen it, like I've gone into different spaces and I've seen how they interact in terms of community building. And it's interesting. Ghana is the most disconnected spaces in the entire, from the spaces that I've interacted with. It's the most disconnected. we really do not understand what community means. And it's funny, like, I think, let's not take it literally as in, oh, Charlie, we know what community is. It's like, I meet you, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being able to reach consensus, agree on something that we want to do, and then take it through, like, go beyond it and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Nobody comes in and said, no, we were going to do this, but we're not going to do this. Like, you don't have, we're human beings, so you have spaces where there will be betrayal or there will be, lapses. But the idea of we're doing this as a collective is something that is very, very difficult for people. And I think it's stemmed from, it's a historical thing. We really have to look at, as I said, I come from a family where we always do things together. Like, we have to. Like, this is like, as a matter of fact, if you don't, you remind your great grandmother did it. But then you have a context where we are building a society right now where everybody is actually in silos somehow. And they think it's okay, it's good. Like, we all have to be just superficial with each other and then we're good, right? There is no sense of, let's build something that will last for the next generation to come. No.
At all. Yeah.
So you don't see a lot of collaboration. So I'll give you an example. You have spaces, and this for me, this is a very important thing that I think needs to be said, because this is my review of looking at people going into the capitalism space, wanting to set up businesses, and there are people that just want to do things, want to be active. There are people that wake up every morning and go on the street to sell. They don't need to, but they have to, because they know that they have to, feed themselves or feed their children, take their children to school, and so on. So there are people who really have their responsibility on point. But the challenge is that you have a space, for example, where the sense of togetherness is really unclear. So, for example, you build a company that maybe lasts for 10 years. You put your all in the company. You put your investment, your time, your energy into that company. And what normally happens is that there is no space where 5 other people who maybe have the capital to afford the company can come together and say, you know what, let's buy this Kojo's company, because maybe Kojo is willing to move on to a different space, right?
He's going to Canada.
Or Kojo is doing so well that maybe Kojo needs to do another thing, right? So you can come in and say, okay, Kojo is willing to sell the company, because 10 years, when you put 10 years in the company, you are able to actually sell the company and then move on to something else. Ghana is the only place where it's frowned upon for anybody to take over somebody else's business. As a matter of fact, they will tell that they can't take your business because of, your family history. There's always something
tied to
it. Do you know what's happening in the US right now? You have young people as young as 19, 20 building multi-million companies. The reason why they do this is that they're able to come up with an idea, a product, and somebody else sitting somewhere else can wake up and say, I want to buy it for 2 million. They're not thinking whether it comes with some bad Oma from their family. That's not how they're thinking. And so you have different people being invested in other people. Now what's happening is that gradually is coming into this space, because in the tech space you see that a lot. But I don't think the tech space is what Africa thrives on. I think it's the creativity space. I think it's the production, manufacturing space. So, that's it's a challenge. If we're able to build an economy that is able to observe smaller companies and make it and bring it together and make it bigger, I think we will be somewhere there.
Dope.
Yeah,
Fred, have you been answered?
Yeah. Just a quick follow up. You said betrayal, the word betrayal. Did you remember saying it?
I think I mentioned something like that. Yeah.
It wasn't about personal betrayal. You were just talking
Yeah.
about the funny nature of the business.
Yeah.
But it prompts me because of how long you've been in it to ask, have you felt any sense of betrayal in your endeavors? The sweat equity that you've put into things.
Yeah.
Forget about the capital because that's also its own conversation. But do you feel that since you've been here, you've put your soul into things that someone has tried to rip away from you just because of the nature of the beast?
Absolutely. I mean, I think when you're in a business space, the business is a brutal game. It's absolutely brutal. I think people undermine or misconstrue the fact that they think business is just, I buy this, I sell this, and then, that's not what
Vibes.
it's about. It's about tactic. It's about people trying to cut corners. It's about people, doing so many things. So if you're in it and you're playing a certain type of game, you are rest assured going to be betrayed. You feel betrayed in some ways because if you're not taking the approach of the savage mode, you are going to feel betrayed in that sense. But I think for me, I wouldn't even use the word like in context. I think how I would place it is the fact that I'm a little disappointed that in 14 years, I still do not think that we are there yet in terms of progress, right? Because I think by now we should be able to say, wow, there's so many talented people. There's so many people who are coming up with so many ideas, and we have to be able to support every single one of them somehow. There should be a center by now, 2024, where it has entrepreneurship written on it, where you can literally walk in and say, I have an idea. I want to create a recyclable shoe or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have to cultivate this entrepreneurship spirit because the entire economy is based on that. And we still don't have that. There are places, people come up with ideas all the time and they have to press the delete button on it or place it somewhere because it's not exciting. But that's not how you kind of like grow a space or a country that has so many youth, and every single one of them have great ideas.
That's the kind of a betrayal that you feel.
Absolutely. I mean, how can you be in a setting where as a young person you're not able to go anywhere and share the ideas you have or make it come to life? Not in the school system. You can't do that, So there is no space that allows people to do that, which is
Dope.
Yeah.
So, back to the Shop Accra. Yeah.
I do other things apart from the shop.
I know. I think there's a very last question on the Shop Accra. Do you just have a branch?
Okay, so that's a good question. So the Shop Accra is currently just one branch in Osu, but previously we had a branch in Abidjan and Lagos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is before COVID. As I said, COVID was
COVID messed
was a mother. Yeah.
messed you up. So yeah, Chai, enough for the Shop Accra. Shout out to the Shop Accra, and I actually love the name, the Shop
Shop
Accra.
Accra, yeah.
Like it's so
Funny enough, there's a lot of people that will see me and say Accra shop.
yeah, yeah.
Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Like their combination, like a lot of people always felt like they had to put the Accra before the shop.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still? I read somewhere or I heard somewhere that you were a lecturer, a part-time lecturer.
Yes.
Do you still do it?
Yeah. So I'm a part-time lecturer at Accra Technical University.
How is that going?
Good. Again, if you interact with a lot of students, you realize that, wow, I mean, this country is just like blessed. With so many talented students and young people. For me, that has been one of the most mind-blowing things, where I think that it's really reinforced the notion of me really exploring that space, because community building in that context is also something that's very important.
What do you teach?
So I teach professional practice in interior design. Yeah.
Is that what you did in school?
No, I did art history and African studies, and a little bit of anthropology.
So how did you land
and
this
development.
job?
Okay, so whilst I was in school, I did an apprenticeship internship with a British company called Laura Ashley, and they make everything from scratch, from furniture to curtains, everything. And so it was my side hustle in terms of being able to get a little bit of money whilst I was in school. And, I did really well. So I ended up being promoted at some point, and I was moving from one store to the other. Subsequently, when I came to Ghana, one of the things that I picked up on was interior design, which was basically from my apprenticeship in the UK. I came back and I kind of continue in terms of creating spaces that allows community to thrive. So it was a combination between community building and what actually space empowers that to happen.
Dope. Last question before Fred comes in. And I want you to be very, very honest. Very, very honest.
Wow. The way it's starting already.
Oh, no, it's not anything crazy. What do you think, since you are into interior design, and what do you think of our set, and what can we do to improve it?
I think you have a lovely set. But obviously there are little things that you can add to it.
That's what we need.
I love the art, the books, and everything, but you're missing plants, maybe, for example.
So I mean plants were supposed to be a part.
Yeah.
But Charlie, it is work.
No, some plants don't need taking care of, a lot of care.
Yeah.
They're actually happy to have people, and you have people here all the time. So, some plants. I can give you some recommendations. Some of the plants you should consider. And then obviously the studio. I mean, this can be a little more cozy. In terms of the floor, you can have a carpeted space, or just to make it cozy.
But the viewers don't see the floor match.
No, so it's not about the viewers. It's about
the guests.
the experience of the guests, right?
Cool.
And and I guess other things are just basically you guys being able to have and this is something that I'm very particular about. I think if you walk into the shop, for example, you would notice that it's an African space, right? I think the identity can be stamped properly, so that people, even if you guys are not sitting here, people know that this is this podcast.
So we should introduce more African stuff.
No, so for example, this chair, for example, right? It's almost like the hot seat, right? And I think there was a program on TV that had a hot seat.
Yeah, the hot seat.
I would literally upholstery this in
mud cloth.
In some mud cloth, some kente, something that will really just represent. When people see it, they know that these guys are not joking. That kind of thing. I think adding elements of identity into spaces and even our appearances is super important. Nowadays, you can't tell who's a Ghanaian anymore.
Yeah. I mean, they say the world is a global village. So
globalizing.
Funny enough, globalization also rests upon people actually having
an identity. Yeah, true.
True. So you can't just be, not identifiable.
Thanks for the tip. I might add it add this to the final edit, or am I take it out?
Yeah, so interior designer. First of all, you're president of IDDG, which is an important aspect to the way that we build community here that I don't see us do much of, is to formalize our creative side as professions that have standards that govern themselves in building the community, doing things according to certain tried and tested, rules or standards, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And I'm in the creative space, but I'm very hesitant to put a title on myself for what I do because I've not actually been formally trained for any of the things that I partake in.
Yeah.
In this town, I bump into a gazillion people and they call themselves interior decorators, interior architects, interior this, interior that. And it's cool. I love for people to thrive. I'm not trying to knock anybody's hustle. But I call myself a hustler because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to put things together to make it work. But I have such a profound respect for people who have taken the time to formally educate themselves to operate in this space. That the title that they put on themselves to come with that, demand of themselves. So if I call an interior decorator, interior architect, I'm not expecting my mother who knows beautiful things and she knows how to put a pot in a room and put a rug there and drape it in a little bit of kente and splash.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I want to know what led you to IDDG.
Right.
What led the entire organization, if you want to call it that, the inspiration behind it, the motive behind it, what it's trying to accomplish. But for you personally, also operating in this space, how do you feel like you're received in the capacity of your profession? When people approach you, are they given the necessary weight to why they've even brought you on board to do anything for them? Or they just want to be associated or whatever the case may be. But I just want to know how you feel as a professional in the industry and then the purpose behind IDDG and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so IDDG is an association. And
What does it mean? ID.
okay, so Interior Designers and Decorators Ghana.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the key word here is association, right? Again, it's what attracted me to it is it's a concept of community building. And initially, from the onset, IDDG now is 6 years old. I was invited to be part of it because I was trading in African, as I said, I'll pick up chairs from the villages and I posted them, and so people could find unique stuff at the shop. And not just that, I was also doing projects where I was really making sure that identity was very evident. So I was invited to be part of the Interior Designers and Decorators 6 years ago when it just started. And for me, I was excited because it had a few people that I actually had never I wouldn't meet them on the street because these are not the type of people that, have a specific space that you can go to and find them. So it's very intriguing to meet architects, interior designers, decorators, and retailers. And they've all kind of had a common vision was to meet up every week or every month to kind of discuss, okay, how can we promote each other? And subsequently, 4 years later, I was elected as the president of the association. And at that time, mean, 2 years ago, I had to obviously really work hard to make sure that the organization grows from, let's say, a 10-member active community to now, which we are over like 100 people.
That's dope.
And that was so important because, like, I think it allowed me to use some of the skill set, or the word you use, audacity, that I have into a space where I was able to go in and really just organize people. I think the key word is my sense of organizational skills. And the organizational skills is not about coming into a room and organize. I think I translate that from just organizing little things to even bigger things and humans as well.
Yeah.
And I guess the attribute from that comes from the fact that when I was little, one of the most important games that I always liked to play was a puzzle. And so putting puzzles together was something that I was really good at, and subsequently, I guess that has evolved into being able to puzzle a lot of other things.
Dope.
I'm always digging. You've spoken about IDDG,
Yeah.
but in the industry, I guess behind the scenes, there's a lot of chatter about work and who does what. And I'm curious to know who, if anybody, you felt inspired by or most inspired by, and if you have any, anything to say about mentorship, whether you've ever been in the position of mentee, and if you're in the position of mentor,
Yeah.
and what you think the importance of that is, if anything at all.
That's great. I mean, mentorship is super, super important. I don't think we have a lot of that here in Ghana, I'd say. However, in the context of IDDG, I think it was important to understand that when people don't know how to do something, it's very hard for you to expect something from them, right? Mentorship is the ability to be able to actually be content with yourself, be able to guide others into the right directions, right? Not necessarily persisting and saying, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that. I always say I always had a kitchen cabinet, meaning that I had 5 people who were from different backgrounds that I always, in any scenarios I would think of, and I was like, okay, who can I call or who can I talk to about this scenario? And there would always be one person. I had somebody from the law, in the law background, like in legal background. I have somebody for, let's say, finance. And so there are different people who, always are, I think I saw as not necessarily, they were part of a cabinet that I call it, my 5 people that I can always call in whatever circumstances. And then obviously there are one person that I call more than all the others in a sense. But I think it's important for mentorship, the concept of mentorship, to proceed, like, to be entertained and also to be encouraged. Myself, I guess it was very important for me to go into that role, especially with teaching and also doing a few things. Even at SJC, I was advising on a entrepreneurship capstone. You end up actually drawing people to you that just want to know how do you do it? How do you do it? And it's always good to, be able to guide people or give people some form of counsel. They don't need to take it, but it's important that when people are looking for counsel, that they can find it.
Yeah.
And then the person that you feel inspired, you feel most like very excited about their work or in the industry.
It's interesting, you know, I work in so many different industries. I might be president of the interior designers and decorators, but I'm also like, I'm the lead for auxiliary arts at the Ghana Culture Forum, for example. Um, I teach and I do colloquium design as well, so institutional design as well. So there's so many different fields, but I would say if I have to pinpoint one person that is extremely has had an impact in my life and is extremely inspirational, I think it would be my former boss or first boss that I ever had in Ghana, the Professor Raymond Atuguba, from the legal sector.
Okay.
Because when I first came to Ghana, the first 2 years, I was a researcher, legal researcher.
Oh, wow.
And I was part of the team that revised Ghana's constitution. And so I had a community of lawyers. I know a whole bunch of lawyers that, you know, were all brought
Was it
together.
Oliver in that group? Was it?
Oliver, yes.
Okay.
I worked with Oliver for
I
a long
remember
time.
him saying that from his
Yeah. So I worked with Oliver. And there's a whole bunch of other lawyers that I worked with. So I've been in different spaces and have also interacted with a lot of different communities. So it's not just the interior design. It's like if I go into the legal space, for example, there's a whole bunch of people. Because you see, the Constitution Review Commission brought together a young and very diverse background and also very eager and very excited students from the law that were interested in revising Ghana constitution because for them
it needs revising.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Still.
Yeah.
It's
So
already
it
been
needs work.
revised.
Oh,
it's just
no,
that it
no.
needs to be passed. Like
But-
the
okay,
the-
okay, fair.
the it's still in the parliament, so it just needs to be passed. We just have to have one president that is, you know, willing to pass it.
To work
Dope.
against his own interest as protected by the current constitution.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Dope. Charlie, getting to the end. I've been wanting to ask you this question when we started talking about the Shop Accra and about art in general. What's your take, or what do you think? I think Fred asked you this question in a way, but it wasn't, straightforward. What do you think of the art space currently in Ghana? Your honest,
My honest
Yeah.
opinion. Oh dear. So we have a vibrant art space. We have amazing talent, but we have a lot of work to do. You see, what happens in the art space is, at the moment, people are looking at it almost like from a commercial perspective. It is not a commercial entity. You know, art is a huge part of our culture. But what we are trying to do is separate it almost and say that, okay, we are not art. We are art, like in terms of what we do, how we eat, how we dress, like all of that is art. But what's happening is that we're trying to obviously piggyback to the global evaluation of what art is and say, okay, this costs this how much, this costs that much. And what we're shying away from is that there are people that are true geniuses, right? The problem right now with the industry is that a lot of people are piggybacking and doing the same thing, you know, and we're not coming up with, like, there are not people, or the ones that are doing it are not being given their audience. I'm talking about a true and genius artist is somebody who is able to abstract your view or understanding of what it is that you're looking at. It's like you see the thing, it looks like a chair, but it's not a chair. You know, that's like what we are talking about. Most of the people that universally have been able to have been classified as excellent and brilliant have always been able to actually deceive their eye, we call it. But what's happening is that, we are now creating art that is like very obvious.
Yeah.
There's not hidden meanings. There's no
just there.
translations. There's
Here,
not,
take.
no, but then what it does is, it looks like this, so this is how much it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a portrait, so it's
Yeah.
this is how much it is. But it's more than that. We have, I think we have a definition for what art is, but what we have done is we've ventured out of it, and just to be able to sell art at a certain price, we are, just going back to what it is that we do. But what we need to be looking for is true genius artists who are able to pick, straws and make sculptures out of them, right? Or take things that are completely, unconventional and make something out of them.
If you were given the opportunity to pick a piece to stick in the largest lobby of the Bank of Ghana, for instance, what would it be? Who would it be from? What would it be? Or are you going to paint a picture from your head and put it there? I would like to know.
Well, I think, there's one person that came in mind as you were asking. I don't know if you saw the exhibition from Tay YG.
Yeah, dope.
And he basically weaves like tin, aluminium materials together and form like sculptures.
Okay.
I think his work will be exceptional in public spaces and in public institutional spaces. Because the element of that is it's very inspiring, right? Because I think children can look at that and be completely blown away in terms of how that even came about.
Taiwaji.
Taiwaji.
How you spell it?
H. Yeah, Tay, which is TEI, and then
then
HUAGIE.
HUJ.
Yeah.
Huaji. Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah. And is there a particular piece or just commission him to do?
I think commissioning him to do various different sculptures will be really amazing.
Okay.
You see, I don't think, and this is really, and for me, I have never been drawn to portraits of people. Like, I don't think it's our culture to have pictures of ourselves. I think it's a very European thing, right? Because, the Queen will call all the artists to actually make, and the artists would do it because they needed money somehow.
Right.
So art is not about you capturing somebody's youth, and it's not about that. It's interesting. There was an artist, Henry Taylor, who African American, great artist. You should check him out. But he's actually a portrait. Like, he does portrait. And funny enough, he came to Ghana to do some residency, and he popped by at the shop. And he got stuck. He was like, he couldn't leave the shop in some way. And then he did a portrait of myself. But it's interesting because it doesn't look anything like me. It's what it is that he saw, right? And I can never say that this is me. It looks like a completely different person, and I think that's a very interesting take on that. But he's coming from the American, the Western perspective. So portrait written is something that I think it's very easy. In our context, I think there should be more exploration with sculptures and the forming, because the form of art is something that we are pretty much interested in. So being able to carve, the amount of things that we've been able to carve that is actually in British museums and around the world. It's impeccable.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And that craft is completely diminishing because everybody is interested in doing portraits, right? And I think it's important that we identify what it is that we can do with the resources that we have. And these portraits, these carvings were made from different materials, from stone, from wood, from clay. You know, we are losing that touch. That's what I'm saying, that if we're looking for excellence, it's not about how many people can paint, you know. You'll be competing with the West when you're looking at how many people can paint. In Japan, a lot of people do pottery. You know, the art making of pottery, just the pottery pot is an art form on its own, and the amount of money they ask for is ridiculous, right? And we are not vested in terms of being able to, you know, truly identify what it is that I mean, how many people in this space actually work with glass? And we can easily, you know, mold glass and do so many things. So it's really about being able to look at the environment and see what resources we have that we can actually interpret our creativity out of. That's what true art is about.
You've spoken about your grandmother, your great grandmother, the lineage that you come from. I don't know if you're married. I don't know if you have kids. But I know the culture that we're in.
Yeah.
And to end on a completely different note from what we started from, that weight that you're carrying around, how much of pressure do you feel, if any at all, are you being expected to continue the lineage in its most natural sense? Biologically, people probably are looking for the genes to be passed on
Right.
through you. I mean, your sister is your twin, but you're doing a work that's, to us, visibly,
Yeah.
you know, community oriented, like what your great grandmother before you did. Do you feel the pressure? Is there any pressure? Do people expect of you to perform that quote unquote natural maternal
Yeah.
role?
You know, the interesting thing, I don't think I feel any pressure at all from my family. Thank God, has not pressured me into anything so far. You know, I mean, you would have the odd auntie there who would be like, oh, you know, we have to see something kind of thing. But I don't think, and they've all seen, you know, how dedicated I am to the cause. So I don't think that they see it, so they don't interrupt in that sense. But I always have this analogy, and it's very strange. I don't know whether it's something I learned from my grandmother. You serve others before you serve yourself. Funny, in the West, you're taught different. If something is happening, you serve yourself before you serve others, right? But I have this analogy that in order for me to be able to be truly able to, you know, serve my family, my nuclear family, I have to be able to actually, you know, serve others. And I think it's a notion that I got from my grandmother because there are contexts where cousins were brought to the house, not because they didn't have homes, but it's because they needed to know how to live with somebody else. That was like almost like a form of training to be able to socially prepare yourself for these type of relational building. So I think there's an element there to be able to actually understand that when you're serving others, I don't think a lot of people are actually, you know, I mean, in my case, a lot of time I volunteer a lot of my time. I serve a lot of other people. So it's always for a greater good. So I don't think a lot of people are saying you're doing nothing, you know. I think the case happens when you're sitting at home they come and meet you every day, and they'll be like, oh, like they give you that pressure. But I think if you are actively doing stuff, a lot of people know that it's not easy to take up on that role. And if you can do it and you do it well, I mean, you can only strive in a smaller setting.
Do you think in German, away or English?
Interesting. I do think in German a lot of times, and in English, and in Tree.
But German is the primary.
But German is the first, and then English is second, and then Tree is like last.
All right.
Yeah.
Tub, Charlie. Guys. What a conversation. Charlie. Man, art, Charlie, I'm having spoken about art for this long, before in my life,
Wow.
Charlie, shouts to Lorraine for coming through.
Brother.
Thanks for having me.
Charlie, Lorraine, Charlie, we appreciate you. We thank you for coming through, coming to spend all of this time with us, talking about all the amazing things that you are doing, sharing a little bit about your life, and I'm still in awe, you being a twin. That's very, very, very crazy to me. I hope to meet your twin one day.
Absolutely, very soon.
Has she been coming to Ghana?
Yeah, normally December is.
Okay, nice. And when you said you had a twin, I immediately thought of someone.
Really?
Yeah, because I've been seeing this lady around who looks like you.
That's so interesting.
She also has a wide grin.
She does. Did you know her name?
No. No.
No, so that's not my twin because my twin is not in this country.
Yeah, gotcha. Charlie, hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We thank you. After this show, tell someone about this show, about this episode. Tell them to go check out the Shop Accra up in Osu. You can find them on Google Maps. It's so easy to spot them out. Go and check Lorraine's awesome space. I actually thought you still had the branch in Abidjan and in Lagos.
Right.
Yeah. Are they going to come back up one day?
One day, definitely.
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 Dope.
Definitely.
Shy guys. So yeah, you check out, the Shop Accra. Very, very dope space. And Charlie, subscribe, follow Fred.
Lorraine, keep shining, man. You're a bright
Thank
mind
you.
in a small space that we love.
Yeah, Charlie.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Shouts to you, the F More Let's Divide podcast, Fred.
Yes, sir.
We are through.